and Michael Jimenez are the Fantasy Guys. Brought to you by RDK Advisors.
San Antonio, welcome in. The church is live. Welcome one, welcome all. This is the Fantasy Gods. You are live with ESPN San Antonio. My name is Brandon Big Poppy Medina. That's Michael Jimenez. Michael, how are you doing on a beautiful Sunday morning?
Doing fantastic. And dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to celebrate this thing called life, to celebrate this thing called fantasy football. We are now in week 4, a very important week in fantasy football.
Absolutely, a very important week indeed. However, we have some very important updates as well, Michael. Let's talk about who's out.
Well, a lot of good players that are out, namely Cam Newton. Came down with COVID-19. Kind of a shock that happened when it was announced yesterday. So he is out. We also have some star players such as Christian McCaffrey, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Tyrod Taylor, Jimmy Garoppolo, Raheem Mostert, Alshon Jeffrey, and Deshaun Jackson are all out. We have a game-time decision on Chris Carson for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I believe Chris Carson will be active. Now, obviously, play him at your discretion. I know Carlos Hyde is also banged up, so if you were one of the many that used your waiver wire pickups on Carlos Hyde, with Chris Carson active, look for it to be mostly a split backfield unless one does go down. However, the Seahawks are going to keep Russ cooking, keep him moving. So if you have Russell Wilson, obviously a very nice start, which we'll get into later. But yeah, man, a lot of these big-time names are out today. We also have the Titans obviously being pushed back. So if you had any Titans players, you most likely had to figure things out for your team as well as Steelers players. The Titans, man, still coming down with COVID cases, not very good. There's a chance that Titans-Bills game in Week 5 might even get pushed back. So definitely something to keep in the back of your head. Obviously, we hope that the Patriots can play. I believe this is the second day of negative testing. So we shall see. I know your Saints also came down with a positive test that maybe was a false positive. So this is what we were talking about in the beginning of the season, right, Mike? It's starting to come down to the wire where COVID is definitely going to play a part in fantasy lineups.
And the sad thing is, Brandon, is that the first 3 weeks when we didn't have anything going on, we had that sense of normalcy, that sense of calm, and now we're seeing games getting pushed back. Like you mentioned, Tennessee and Pittsburgh. Tomorrow, we're looking at a double header for Monday Night Football. If the Patriots-Chiefs game does, in fact, get played, it'd be played at 6:05 local time over on CBS. Then the Falcons and Packers would kick off as normal over at 7:50. But we were talking about this. I'm a little bit scared right now. I mean, if I'm hanging on to players from the Patriots and the Chiefs, man, I'd be scared. I mean, you have to start them, right? I mean, how do you not start Mahomes, right? How do you not start some of these star players, Edwards-Helaire? But the fact of the matter is that the game for Monday night is not a definite. They're hoping to play tomorrow night. So that's a scary thing for fantasy owners.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I know I have Edwards-Helaire in the league, and I'm going to most likely just roll with the safe bet. And the safe bet, unfortunately for me, is Chris Carson. I'm pretty good at running backs there. I know I actually pulled off a trade that I'm very happy about that most maybe who have him would not be happy about. However, I think you would agree, Michael, if you look at scheduling. I was able to dump off Raheem Mostert for Kenyon Drake, just straight up.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know how. I think the person that had Kenyon Drake was shopping him all over the place in one of my leagues. Raheem Mostert had those 2 huge games out again today, 2 weeks in a row. He was looking to get away from Kenyon Drake, had some solid bench depth. He had Antonio Gibson, other people like that. He had Singletary, but I think, yeah, it worked out straight up. And I looked at the scheduling and I was like, Kenyon Drake will be bouncing back. Whatever you got from Kenyon Drake will not be the norm.
Yeah, Drake hasn't been playing bad. He's been playing okay. He's getting his 16 to 18 carries per week. And the fact of the matter is there have been a lot of injuries in Arizona's offense, but he's not one of them, right? They've had injuries to DeAndre Hopkins. They have had injuries to Christian Kirk, who, by the way, both will play this week. So I don't know why anyone would give up on Drake. Right now, I mean, week 4 is so important in fantasy football because, personal opinion, whenever I set up a fantasy team, I don't like doing trades the first 4 weeks. I want to see what I have as a team. And I think after this week, we now know what our team is actually capable of because we'd have 4 games under our belt. Are we winning because we're good or because we're lucky? Are we unlucky? There's some teams that might be the second or third highest scoring team in their league, but be 1-3. Don't make any moves. You're scoring points. So this is a really important week because, man, 3-1 is so much different than 2-2, and 2-2 is so much different than being 1-3 in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think when you look at it, there are teams out there who are 0-3, might be 0-4 after this week. Even maybe next week they're 0-5. Listen, you hear time and time again with waiver wire moves, different trade moves, or maybe, players start getting an easier schedule. You hear it all the time, Michael. I'm sure you might have been there yourself at times. Those 0-5 teams sometimes come back to make a deep run in the playoffs. Those 0-4 teams come back to make a deep run in the playoffs. It is all possible in fantasy football, especially with a year like this, where maybe your opponents, unfortunately, are or have Tennessee Titans players. Maybe you're not playing Derrick Henry this week when you thought you were. Maybe you're not going to be going against Cam Newton when you thought you were.
When I take a look at my leagues and I take a look at those who are 3-0, they all have something in common. They're all basically Neo from the Matrix, just dodging injury and COVID bullets. That's all they're doing, right? It's not necessarily because they have the greatest teams. They just have the healthiest teams. And when we we have to be on top of the waiver wire. We need to spot trends before they happen or as they are developing. And that's the name of the game, especially in the age of COVID.
Yeah, so a little insight, I guess, for me, Michael, which to everybody out there, we're going to get to all those questions. I know we have Chris Hero, Self Tanksley, as always. We're going to get to those questions on Facebook Live. You have a question and you're driving, maybe you're going to church, coming from church, whatever the case, or maybe you're driving to get some Babacoa on Big Red, as you should be. Give us a call at the Kielbasa Bacon phone lines, 210-656-ESPN, 210-656-3776. But also, I want to tell you a little bit. I'm struggling over here, man. There's one league I'm in that the injury bug has definitely bit me in the butt and a lot. So I am struggling. So right now, Michael, for the first time ever in my life, in my young adult life, I am 0-3 right now.
Wow.
I lost Saquon Barkley. I lost Chris Godwin, right? I have Joe Mixon, who's done nothing basically. Right. And then also to go with that, all of my running back depth has either gotten hurt or I've had to pick up people. So right now I'm in a position where my number 2 wide receivers will have to be Hollywood Brown, Marvin Jones, or Justin Jefferson. Not a happy position to be in. Not a happy position to be in whatsoever. But let's get into some fantasy questions. I know, obviously, like I said, this is the first time I'm dealing with this. I'm hoping to get a big win. I actually did trade Cam Newton for a few pieces I liked. I got Myles Gaskin in that trade. I needed some running back depth. So if you have those guys, I have Deshaun Watson as my starter. I didn't really need Cam Newton. If you have those pieces, maybe you're standing at 0-3 or 1-2, whatever the case. You have pieces you can let go of, specifically a great tight end piece maybe. Those are very usable assets in a trade. But let's get into some questions real quick. Mike, we have Chris Hero. He says, I need some help. I have Tyreek Hill. Should I risk it? Or he goes on to say, or go with Justin Jefferson or Greg Ward Jr.?
Wow, that's a good question.
Would you risk it? That's the question.
No, I wouldn't. Jefferson last week was just insane. Okay, obviously Tyreek Hill is a wide receiver 1. You want to play him. But if you have somebody to fall back on who has the capability, right now, if you're not looking right now, Brandon's wearing his Vikings purple, and he saw what Justin Jefferson did last week, over 170 yards, just looking fantastic. They targeted him over 10 times. So the thing is that I wouldn't risk it. And then another good question is what is your record right now? Can you afford to risk it? So I would say Justin Jefferson would probably be the play right now.
Okay. Well, here we go, Chris. My buddy, listen, I appreciate the question. We have questions like this all the time, though, on the show where we're going to be a split decision. I think Greg Ward Jr. Going against my Vikings purple would probably be the play. He's the number 1. Check this out, Mike. He's the only wide receiver that made the 53-man roster on Thursday. The only wide receiver. They are very depleted at wide receiver. Last week, he had like 8 catches for I think 75 and a touchdown, had like 20 points.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson, do not be fooled by the rookie breakout. We've seen this before. We've seen this. You've seen this. Me and you, Mike, have both been burned plenty of time by great rookies who have great games, come back and maybe have a 5-point game. This happens.
Well, it happens to receivers. It happens to receivers.
In general, not even rookies, in general. Do I think Justin Jefferson will give you plus or minus 7 points? Absolutely. I think you're going to get 7 to 10 points, hopefully. Mm-hmm. But don't expect a 30-point game again. And don't expect, anything of that nature where it's going to be. I don't think he is a game winner for you this week. I think if I was a betting man, which we are, and we'll get into that later, I think Greg Ward Jr. might be the play. Even for me, I might be dropping someone today to play Greg Ward Jr. So I think Greg Ward Jr. is the play today in fantasy football if you're going for those two. We also have a question from Self Tanks Lee. We got flex Galladay or Henderson, no PPR. Now this is a good one.
Yeah.
When
it's a fantastic
PPR,
one.
Yeah, when it's not PPR, those wide receivers don't mean nearly as much as those great running backs. What do you think here, Mike? Are you rolling with Henderson?
You know what? This is a good problem to have. Okay, if this is your situation, it's a really good situation to have. So here's the thing: Galladay hurt the first 2 weeks of the season, played his first game last week, looked good, had 1 touchdown. Obviously, was going into the season as a top 10 receiver, and now we're looking at Henderson, who the last 2 weeks is averaging over 6 yards per carry. Wow! And they're playing a horrible Giants team. Okay, if this was PPR, I would say Galladay all day, but it's not. So I'm going to roll the dice and say Henderson.
I completely agree. I think Henderson is the play. We got one from Mark Anthony. Lamb or Marvin Jones? Are you still on the Marvin Jones train at all, Mike? Or has this train left the station and we're just moving on?
Well, Galladay is back, right? So that hurts a little bit for Marvin Jones. So CeeDee Lamb is a special player. He's fun to watch, especially in PPR leagues. He's getting targets, and look at how many yards Dak Prescott's throwing for these days. I mean, he's throwing for 400 back-to-back. He's throwing it to somebody, and obviously last week, Gallup had a big day. CeeDee Lamb had a decent day. He's gotten Schultz in the mix in the past couple of weeks. So I would say that if your quarterback is throwing up 400 yards a game, you may want to start his receivers.
Absolutely. And with that, looks like we might have a caller on the line. We got Adrian. What's going on, Adrian? You are live with the Fantasy Gods. What is your question, my man?
What's going on, guys? Long-time listener, and I appreciate your advice here. So I'm kind of torn. Is this the week to get Devante Freeman in? I was kind of in the same boat, man. I had Saquon go down. I had Cortland Sutton go down. Mm-hmm. And I got Singletary and Carson starting. So I'm like, should I plug them in this week or what's the deal?
What other flex options do we have, Adrian, besides Devante Freeman? If we're looking at Singletary as a starter, what other flex options do we have maybe at wide receiver that you have for flex?
Man, I had Jerry Jeudy, man. I left him on my bench.
Oh, I did as well.
Yeah. The other guy I have is Josh Kelly from the Chargers. And then Curtis Samuel is the other guy as well. So.
Wow.
Now it's getting interesting. Now it's getting a little interesting. Okay, Mike, I'm gonna let you have this one. I know you're a Joshua Kelly stan over there, Michael. So what are you thinking here?
Joshua Kelly, he gets touches. He had over 20 touches 2 weeks ago. Now, last week, they got up to a big league. They didn't need him as much. So I think when I do fantasy football, I think about upside. So earlier we were talking about Justin Jefferson versus another player. And when I look at it, do I want to go with what I think is their average or what I think their potential is? So a lot of these players that you're talking about have a lot of potential. Singletary has a lot of potential. In this particular situation, I kind of do like Joshua Kelly as the play here.
I am actually going to disagree. Joshua Kelly did not do much last week. You saw Austin Eckler absolutely take control of that backfield. Adrian, I think when it comes to it, I think Devonta Freeman might be the safest bet. He's actually getting the start this week. We'll see. He's had a week to kind of get used to that game script, a week to get used to play calling, to get used to his new teammates. look for him to get, some good touches, some great backfield work, but also he's going to catch balls. I mean, the guy is a receiving back.
That's the question I have there. Is it a PPR league? Because if it is, then that might swing it the other way because Devonta Freeman is known more for his receiving than he is his actual rushing. My fear about it, though, is you take a look at like a Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette was brought into the Bucs, and everyone was all excited. And then the first week that he played, there was nothing.
Yep.
He did nothing. They didn't play him. So it's just kind of weird.
It is. However, keep it locked because we're giving you more fantasy football advice. We got Blessed He Who Starts and Thou Shalt Bench next. Also, some betting advice for you guys to go. We've been winning people a lot of money. We checked the standings lately. So make sure you listen to that. Keep it locked. This is the Fantasy Gods on 1250 AM, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com.
The Fantasy Gods is sponsored by RDK Advisors. Are you a life insurance agent or financial advisor looking for a new start? RDK Advisors is the destination for independent agents and advisors. Get direct appointments with top insurance companies, build your contract, own your book, but don't do it alone. Call RDK Advisors at 210-508-0369 or visit rdkadvisors.com.
Are you worried that you won't have enough income to live comfortably in retirement? Go to callclark.com so you don't have to worry. Now you can participate in programs that Fortune 500 CEOs have been using for decades to generate tax-free income in retirement. They also include benefits for long-term care and critical illnesses. These plans can be started for as little as $100 a month. So do yourself a favor and get in contact with Clark Ross, a coordinated financial group, to learn more about these exciting plans. Visit callclark.com to start the process of securing your tax-free retirement plans today.
The football season is underway, and you can track the latest news and information at betonline.net. The early season storylines have not disappointed thus far, and betonline.net has odds and lines all the way through the season and even into the playoffs. In Week 4, will road teams dominate the way they did in Week 3, going 9-6-1? Follow along at betonline.net as 32 teams continue their journey to Tampa in February. Always available online or your mobile device. Check out betonline.net today. Bring the game home at betonline.net.
Moonshine Patio Bar and Grill serves great cooking with an innovative take on classic American comfort food. For over 10 years now, Chuck and Larry have delighted appetites and presented one of the best Sunday brunches ever at 303 Red River in Austin. Go by and enjoy some corn dog shrimp, cornflake chicken salad, broiled rainbow trout, and all my favorites and more. Moonshine classic American comfort food. And of course, when you see Chuck and Larry, tell them Foss said hello. Moonshine Patio Bar and Grill.
Down for the Count is your home for all things wrestling, including WWE, NXT, and AEW. With interviews of all the best wrestlers to grace the squared circle. ESPN San Antonio presents Down for the Count every Thursday at 7 after the Blitz. Hosted by Brendan Medina and Dan Cialana. The best damn wrestling show is here. And that's the bottom line, because Down for the Count says so. 1250 ESPN San Antonio and 94.5 FM. With a performance by the young guys in the bubble. What do the Spurs do with DeMar and LaMarcus heading into next year?
Everything I heard from DeMar gives me every indication that his opt-in is going to happen. I don't see him opting out. Pre-bubble, I was concerned that DeMar Derozan would opt out and explore free agency. But $27 million, he had a lot of fun with those guys, and everything he said was we when he talked about looking towards the future. Mentioning a Trey Lyles and some of the other guys, he seems all in on this team.
1250 ESPN San Antonio and 94.5 FM.
How are we doing, San Antonio? I hope you guys are doing well. Happy Sunday. Happy football day. It's time to talk some fantasy football. You are live with the Fantasy Gods. My name is Brandon Big Papi Medina. That is Michael Jimenez. You can hit us up on Twitter at Big Papi Brandon M and at 210 Fantasy God. Give us your fantasy questions there. You can give us your fantasy questions on Facebook Live at ESPN San Antonio's Facebook, or you can give us a call at the Kielbasa Bacon phone lines, 210-656-ESPN, 210-656-3776. Let's get into some more questions, Michael, while we're at it. When you look at Facebook Live, we got questions from Ricky about Nick Mullins or Justin Herbert. It's a is a tough time if you're looking at these two to start. But I think Justin Herbert's a safe play.
100% agree. He's my favorite waiver pickup of the week. Justin Herbert, back-to-back games with over 300 yards. The problem is he's only getting one touchdown per game. He had one last week and one the week before that. Fact of the matter is he might be a pretty decent long-term play. And look at the weapons he has, man. Keenan Allen. You mentioned Eckler earlier. Josh Kelly. He's got a lot of different players to play with there. I would go with Herbert.
Okay, I like that. I think that Herbert is going to be the safe bet for sure. I'm happy that we agree on that. We also have a question from Self Tanksley, good friend of the show. We have, should I take out Devonta Adams to be safe and play Justin Jefferson or AJ Green?
Green. I'll let you talk about AJ Green for a second. I know you've had some issues with him.
AJ Green has absolutely been disrespectful to me this season. I put faith in him. Again, listen, you're talking to a guy. AJ Green is on that team of mine that for the first time ever, I'm 0-3. Lost Barkley, lost Godwin. Look to get a guy AJ Green there. I had Marvin Jones there. I mean, all these guys are underperforming by crazy mile. So I think AJ Green's left out of that conversation. I think I would stick with Devonte Adams. It looks like he's going to be playing. I don't think Justin Jefferson's at all going to give you anything Devonte Adams would. Alan Lazard's gone. We saw that. He's going to be gone for a few weeks after a huge performance. But I think Devonte Adams will definitely play, and I think he might be maybe on the risky side, but also the boom potential for Devonte Adams like it is every week. I mean, the dude is a top 3 play when healthy, and so I think right now you can look at him as a top 10 start.
Yeah, you never want to start receivers who are hurt, especially with hamstrings. But the fact of the matter is that you mentioned it, you said it, the boom potential, and the fact that Atlanta gives up so many passing yards. This could be a huge week for Adams. If he's healthy enough to play, he's healthy enough to stay in your lineup.
Fair enough. We also got a caller again, Lakia Basa Bacon phone lines. We got Devin on the call. What's going on? You are live with the Fantasy Gods. What is your question?
So I'm having a running back issue. I've got Jonathan Taylor against Chicago, Devin Singletary against the Raiders, and I did pick up Wilson Jr. from San Francisco, and I can start 2. I have no which way to lean. I like all the matchups. Any help would be appreciated.
Oh, this is a great question. So I think Wilson there is going to be getting probably most of the work in San Francisco. I like him a lot. Devin Singletary is definitely your guy. I know, Michael, you were a big fan of Devin Singletary from the jump. Even last year, you were a big fan of Devin Singletary. I think Wilson and Jonathan Taylor are the safe 2 starts. We saw Singletary get all of the work last week, and he didn't do much enough for me to consider him a for sure RB2. So I think Devin Singletary, now that Zach Moss is back, we saw that when Zach Moss is in play, Devin Singletary's play drastically lowers. So I'm going to say Wilson and Jonathan Taylor is the play for you, Devin. Michael, what do you think?
Jonathan Taylor for sure. Okay, so we both agree on that one. The thing about Singletary is he didn't get in the end zone last week, but he did have over 100 yards of rushing and receiving combined. So I think that shows that he should be the running back 1 over there in Buffalo. They're rocking and rolling offensively right now, and Singletary hasn't blown up yet with those big touchdown scores. I think he's due. I think he's really due. So my choice on this one would be Jonathan Taylor and Devin Singletary.
Okay, fair enough. Now with that, let's get some more questions on Facebook Live. We got Chris asking PPR, Thielen, Allen Robinson, or CeeDee Lamb, which one do I sit? So I guess you can sit one of these guys. I think CeeDee Lamb is the one you sit. I think Thielen and Robinson are too good of wide receivers, too top tier to sit either one of those for CeeDee Lamb.
I'd sit Allen Robinson.
Whoa. Dang.
New quarterback.
I know, but no, Nick Foles actually boosted Allen Robinson's projections. Boosted his play. I think Allen Robinson out of those 3 is the for sure start.
You know what? I'm going to disagree. I just think, again, we go back to it. CeeDee Lamb is playing for a quarterback who's throwing 400 yards a game. He's getting 6 to 9 targets a week. I would play CeeDee Lamb. Thielen, okay, so Thielen had an off game last week. I would say CD is actually the number one person to start of these three. Thielen took a backseat to Justin Jefferson last weekend. As you mentioned, you said Justin Jefferson cannot do this every week. So then who are they going to throw the ball to? They're going to throw the ball to Thielen. That's going to be a high-scoring game between the Vikings and the Texans. So, yeah, I think Robinson's the one out for me. It's a good problem to have, but Robinson would be the one I kick to the curb.
All righty, fair enough. Well, let's get to one more question. We have a James Huerta question. 10-team, full-point PPR, Joe Mixon or Mike Davis?
Ooh.
Listen, I have a lot of stock bought in Joe Mixon, and I'm trying to sell that stock as fast as I can. I don't want this stock. It's burning a hole in my pocket. It's hurting me every week, but he's due for a breakout. We saw this last year. Joe Mixon started absolutely super, super slow and then was able to bring himself into a top 15 running back race. So I think Joe Mixon will get there, especially with Joe Burrow, better quarterback play. That offensive line looks awful, though, so I mean that's something to worry about. Whereas Mike Davis last week had some incredible fantasy stats. I'm going to go with Mike Davis just to play it safe, especially that McCaffrey is still out. I'm going with Mike Davis on this specific question. What says you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go with Mike Davis on this one as well, simply because he got a lot of targets, especially if it's a full PPR league. 8 receptions last week. I mean, 8 receptions. What more do you want from a running back? I'm happy when I get 4. So if he got 8, they're using him very much the same way that McCaffrey was being used. McCaffrey was also targeted 10, 12 times a week. So if it's a full PPR, Mike Davis is your play.
Yeah, also news before we get into Blessed He Who Starts and Thou Shalt Bench, Carlos Hyde is inactive.
Wow.
If you got Carlos Hyde, he is not playing. Chris Carson is the number one guy. So Chris Carson basically now becomes a must-play with the Seattle Seahawks. So that's just being reported a little bit before our show went live. So now let's get into a little segment we call Blessed He Who Starts.
Blessed is he who starts.
Let's give some names real quick. Michael, who are you looking to absolutely start this week that you are very excited to put into your lineups?
Okay, 2 quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson and Joe Burrow. Here's the thing, man. The Texans are 0-3. They cannot afford to go 0-4. They're playing at home against the Vikings, who have been giving up yards upon yards upon yards in the air. This is the most important game of the season for the Texans. They can't go 0-4. Watson needs to put up or shut up. And the fact of the matter is this is his game to do it. Joe Burrow, man, we need to start talking about how he's entering the top 2-tier level of fantasy football quarterbacks. He's doing fantastic. Last 2 weeks, 628 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. And then we also mentioned earlier, but I'll just say their names again, Darrell Henderson of the Rams and Kenny Golladay. If you're in a PPR league, Kenny Golladay needs to be back in the lineup.
Yeah, for me, I am definitely rolling with Deshaun Watson today. Like I said, I traded Cam Newton for a few pieces, including Myles Gaskin was the one I needed some running back depth. I think Cam Newton obviously being out, if you're somebody that maybe had Cam Newton and another quarterback like a Joe Burrow, like a Deshaun Watson, if you drafted Cam Newton, you got him extremely late, which means most likely he was your quarterback too anyways. I like Deshaun Watson. I'm a big fan of him. I agree with you on Joe Burrow. Another guy that I'm a big fan of that me and you have talked about a lot is James Robinson for Jacksonville. I think he's a great start. I am starting him over Joe Mixon this week. I didn't last week, and I regretted it, so I am starting him over Joe Mixon. But a guy that we talked about earlier too, Kenyon Drake. Get him in your lineups. Do not be fearful. Do not be nervous. You look at Kenyon Drake. He has Carolina, the Jets. You have Dallas, and then Seattle. These are all teams that you can run on. Arizona is an amazing offense. Look at Kyler Murray to get him going in the passing game as well. I think Kenyon Drake's a solid start. But with that, before we get out of here, let's make sure we get into another segment that we call the flip side, Thou Shall Bench.
Thou shall bench.
Now with this, these are people that you do not want in your lineups. Mike, was there anybody that maybe you are very nervous of keeping in your lineups?
Okay, I'm nervous of anybody who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. And that includes Miles Sanders. If you have a comparable or better option, he's going up against the San Francisco defense that is really strong right now. I hate to say it because I am starting Miles Sanders in another league because I don't have anybody better or anybody comparable because of injuries. So I'm very fearful of that. And I'm also fearful for anybody who's under center for the Eagles. And then also, I've sold all my stock in Daniel Jones. I've sold all my stock. I don't have any stock in Nick Foles. Never did. So those are some names that I would kind of leave off the lineup.
Okay, for me, the number one person is T.Y. Hilton. I'm not starting him. He has not looked great, although the two other wide receivers we were talking about, Michael Pittman, one of them last week going down. You look at Paris Campbell, the other. It seems like it should be the T.Y. Hilton show. T.Y. Hilton looks like he's lost a step, man. I mean, you look at it. He does. The targets have gone down. I mean, you look at his past performances, 4 for 53, 3 for 28, 3 for 52. He's giving you, in a full PPR, 9 points, 5 points, 8 points. Where you drafted him, it's not what you're getting back. I'd much rather take AJ Green over T.Y. Hilton and just roll with that. That's how badly it is. And in one of my lineups, T.Y. Hilton's on the bench. I am seriously thinking, like I said, I have the problem of Marquise Brown or Justin Jefferson. I like Greg Ward. I really might drop T.Y. Hilton for Greg Ward. Now, everybody might be thinking, hey, man, give it a second. T.Y. Hilton might have a blow-up game. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, I mean, what did you expect? I mean, I don't think in a team for me, that specific team out of my 7 that I'm playing in, that's the only one I'm struggling in, and it's because of all the injuries. You do not have time to worry about potential. You are in a win-now mentality. Wouldn't you agree, Michael?
100% agree. When you go back to T.Y., you have a new quarterback. They didn't have a preseason. They didn't have the same type of offseason that the NFL normally has. So there's going to be some teams that are looking bad, that are playing bad, simply because they're just not gelling. They haven't had time to. So it's okay to drop a big name player. I mean, just because someone has a name doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be in your lineup. I mean, we were just talking about Mike Davis right now. Most football fans don't know who that is, but the fact of the matter is he should be playing. Yep. It's all about stats. It has nothing to do with your name.
Absolutely. And like he said, it might be a big name, but it does not mean they deserve to be in your lineup. Rob Gronkowski. Anyways, let's get going, and we'll come back and we will talk some more fantasy football. Stick around. We're talking betting advices as well as who should be your waiver wire pickups following week 4 and who we're saying a little prayer for to go off today, because all of us need a little prayer these days with COVID going crazy in the NFL. But keep it locked, 94.5 FM, 1250 AM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com.
Cover 3 at Stone Oak in San Antonio is the place to be, whether you're looking to gather coworkers for lunch, dine with friends, or treat your sweetie to a fabulous dinner. This elegant restaurant offers ample seating with comfortable leather booths, tall cocktail tables, along with full-service dining at the bar, or you can enjoy a fun time out on the patio. So come to Cover 3 and experience dining, spirits, and sports.
Cover 3, 1806 North 1604 West, 210-479-9700.
America's Diamond has created a half-hour television program called Buying Diamonds Intelligently. You can see where diamonds are mined, how they're cut and polished, how they're graded, certified, and laser inscribed, and how our beautiful diamond jewelry is made. You can see the show tonight on ABC KSAT 12 at 12:35 a.m. or right now on the internet at americasdiamond.com. America's Diamond is the largest diamond engagement ring store in America. We design and create our extraordinary jewelry right here in San Antonio. Quality for quality, we guarantee that the everyday America's Diamond price is lower than any jewelry store's very best sale price, or we'll refund the difference plus 25%. America's Diamond was voted San Antonio's best jewelry store by San Antonio Magazine, The Current Magazine, and for more than 25 years in a row, winner of the Express News Reader's Choice Award. America's Diamond is the official jeweler of the San Antonio Spurs and of the University of Texas at San Antonio Athletics. See America's Diamond first, 561-1000.
Now's the time to get a great deal on select Kubota subcompact and compact tractors. Our reliable #1 selling tractors are designed for easy operation and feature all the performance-matched attachments needed to tackle any job. Right now, get 0 down at 0% APR for 84 months and save up to $1,700, plus no payments for 90 days. Now through October 31st. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
From the Gulf of Mexico to the hill country of Texas, Ewald Kubota is your Kubota dealer.
San Antonio has 2 Hop Dottie locations. Hi, I'm Steve Foster. One at the Rim and the new location at the Vineyard, 1301 North Loop 1604 West. And the initial San Antonio location at 17623 La Cantera Parkway, Suite 101 at the Rim. Different and delicious burgers with fresh and all-natural ingredients. Hop Dottie also has handcrafted milkshakes and hand-cut Kennebuck fries. So get to a Hop Dottie in San Antonio. When burger is life, life is awesome.
The Tennessee Titans halted in-person workouts after 3 players tested positive for the coronavirus. Well, I guess we got to cancel the whole season and forget it ever happened, said the New York Jets.
The barbacoa is hot. The Big Red is flowing. It is a Sunday morning, and football is back, baby. We are talking week 4. You are live with the Fantasy Gods. Welcome on, welcome all. The church is open. My name is Brandon Big Papi Medina, here with my main man, Michael Jimenez, and my other tag team partner running the 1s and 2s over there, Dan Cialana. Big thank you to you, sir. We are live here on ESPN San Antonio. That means you need to get your fantasy questions in ASAP because we are just under 30 minutes before kickoff time. We are at 11:36 right now, so you have 24 minutes to get going in those fantasy lineups to make sure we get you the big W, the big victory, or make you some big money, which we'll talk about later. Now, with that, Michael Jimenez, how are you doing? How's your Sunday morning? Are you excited for some football, my man?
Oh, very excited. You know, I'm back-to-back Monday night games. You know, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I wouldn't mind having 2 games tomorrow. But,
maybe.
Yeah, Cowboys playing early today, so that's always fun to watch. They're the best reality TV show around, so I'm pretty excited about the noon games.
Fair enough. Now, last segment, we talked about maybe fill-ins for certain players, whatever the case. I will tell you right now, for me, I've been talking about the whole show. I'm in full tilt mode. I'm trying to trade everybody. I'm freaking out. I'm 0-3 for the first time ever in fantasy football. Lost Saquon, lost Chris Godwin. I traded a bunch of different pieces here and there, little small pieces. My wide receiver depth is absolute basura. I have Robert Woods as my wide receiver 1, which is fine.
It's fine.
But my wide receiver 2s are Hollywood Brown, not many points. AJ Green, untrustworthy. Marvin Jones, no receptions, basically, no targets. T.Y. Hilton, just dropped him. I have Greg Ward Jr. going for me. Last week, he had 8 for 72, and 1 had 11 targets. He was the only person on the 53-man roster that was a wide receiver on Thursday. I'm trusting in it. I'm putting all of my hope and dreams into Greg Ward Jr. and the Philadelphia Eagles' awful offense, so we'll see what happens there. But when we're talking about fantasy football, Michael, we cannot talk about fantasy football without waivers, without picking up people, without making sure that we can make teams like mine that might be sitting at 0-3 in one of my leagues, or teams that are maybe 1-2, 2-1, that maybe need help at depth for those bye weeks coming up. And like we see, some bye weeks might be pushed up because of COVID, like the Titans. You need to get those waivers started, which means it's time to pass the collection plate.
Pass the collection plate.
Who needs to be targeted, Michael, for week 4, week 5 waivers?
Hey, one thing you did not mention also is that it's the Battle of the Gods this weekend. You and I are going up against each other in our league. So that's fantastic. And I'm also coming off a weekend last week where I went 3-0, and I was number 4 out of over 200 in daily fantasy.
You did.
Probably would have won it all, would have gotten first if DK Metcalf hadn't have had that boneheaded play. But good times. Hey, players to kind of look at the waiver wire right now. Earlier we mentioned Justin Herbert. If you are struggling with your quarterback or you feel like your quarterback doesn't have any upside, Justin Herbert's a good play. Myles Gaskin, Miami Dolphins, 95 total yards last week. has a tough game this week. They might become one-dimensional, but the fact of the matter is that they were using him in the passing game.
Yep.
So I think Myles Gaskin is also someone to look at right now.
I think when you're passing the collection plate and you're looking at waiver wires, there is a crazy amount of waiver wire additions at quarterback. Maybe you saw Cam Newton is out. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe you don't know. There is one team in my leagues, and I'm sure there's many others, that have dropped Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Those are two quarterbacks that, let's be honest, past their prime, not performing fantasy relevant numbers yet. Here and there, you might get a game, but those are two quarterbacks that you can absolutely trust will make smart decisions. They may not give you the output you're missing with a Cam Newton or with a Ryan Tannehill because of what's happening now with COVID, but those are two quarterbacks you can absolutely trust. So I think look at the waiver wire for quarterbacks. Right now, this is the time of the year. It's week 4. There is no running backs on the waiver wire. I mean, you are scraping at, you're reaching for a prayer. You're really just trying to get anything. I know I see James White on some of mine for running backs, but besides that, not much. But wide receivers are always there. You'll see the N'Keal Harrys. You'll see the Golden Tates. You'll see the Cole Beasleys who can be very sneaky plays. I think Cole Beasley might be one of the most sneaky plays of fantasy football. I mean, he gets absolute targets all the time. You look at it. Check this out, Michael. Full PPR, 9.8 points, 12 points, 16 points. Cole Beasley is 32 right now. He's 32 ranked.
You're throwing him at me because I've made fun of Cole Beasley all season long, right? Because I always say, I don't want a Cole Beasley. Because the fact of the matter is that you know what you're going to get with him and a Randall Cobb type of player. They're going to get you 900 yards receiving when it's all said and done. They're going to get you 6 to 7 touchdowns. You know what you're going to get. There's no excitement. They're never going to win that game for you. They're never going to Justin Jefferson win you that game. That's my problem with it all. I saw a lot of, in my fantasy leagues, a lot of people drop McCole Hardman. And we were really big on him earlier in the offseason. He started off pretty slow, but Sammy Watkins does what Sammy Watkins does. Starts off strong and then just disappears. So where are those receptions going? They're going to McCole Hardman.
They are.
So he's a really good pickup these days. Like you said, bunch of basura right now when it comes to running backs. So at this point, back up your stud. If Pollard's available and you have Zeke, get Pollard. Madison, if you have Dalvin Cook. I was sorry about that. The fact of the matter is that you need to back up your players because there's nobody behind. There's nobody on the waiver wire anymore. It doesn't matter if it's a 10-team league, a 12, or a 14-team league. There is nobody there.
Absolutely. Now let's get to some fan questions before we get talking about anybody lighting a candle for. But fantasy football questions via Facebook Live. Go ahead, it's up on Facebook Live. We have Carlos asking Brees or Brady. So we just talked about these two who are possibly available as free agents on the waiver wire, or they might be on your squad like Carlos does. When you look at these matchups, Mike, who are you really going to go with today with Brees and Brady?
This is painful because you know that I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. And Drew Brees isn't the best quarterback on that team anymore. He's also not the second best quarterback on that team right now. I would trust Jameis and Taysom Hill more than Drew Brees. Drew Brees can't throw it more than 10 yards right now. So, and it's irrelevant as to whether Michael Thomas is in the lineup or not. He ain't going to reach him. Okay? So I think Tom Brady is your play. He's not going to throw up huge fantasy numbers, but he's capable of throwing up good fantasy numbers. He had like a 260 and 3 touchdown game a couple weeks ago. I'll take that all day, every day. So I would go with Tom Brady.
Okay, Carlos, Michael made his case. Let me make my case now. Okay, Carlos, listen up because I'm about to take these boys to school real quick. Drew Brees does not make bad plays, though. He has 1 interception on the year. He threw for 3 touchdowns against a Green Bay Packers defense. Not very exciting over there for Green Bay, but also he's going against the Detroit Lions. They're nothing that's going to be scary for Drew Brees. You look at Kamara, he can make absolute magic with anything he gets. He's averaging like 8 receptions a game. He's basically Michael Thomas out there. You look at Drew Brees, I think he makes the smarter plays. Tom Brady does not have Chris Godwin. He's relying on Mike Evans, who, by the way, has been absolutely weird this year. He's giving you fantasy production, but on like 2 catches and a touchdown. And then also look at the Chargers defense. They held Mahomes to like I think the lowest fantasy game he's had this year. The Chargers defense really is not awful. Look for Tom Brady possibly to struggle with that defense. Not struggle where he's going to be bad, but struggle to where I would absolutely start Drew Brees and roll with a hot hand after his 3-touchdown game last week. So Drew Brees would be my pick with that specifically, but I get where Michael's coming from. Now we have Noah asking, who do I start between Gage, Gallup, Jefferson, or DJ Moore? That's a lot.
Wow. So
I'm guessing you're thinking of starting 2 of those, right? That can't be just for 1.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea unless you have like 7 wide receivers on your lineup. But with that,
Gallup and Jefferson would be mine.
Oh God, dude, you're ruining this. We're supposed to be together on this. We're supposed to be a team. Come on, Mike.
Well,
I'm gonna say Gallup and DJ Moore is who I would take.
Well, we agree on Gallup. I mean, like we said, Dak Prescott's throwing out of his mind right now, and even if they start losing, Dak Prescott is the king of junk fantasy points. And Gallup is someone that he's targeting consistently. Jefferson, again, it is all about potential. DJ Moore may actually out-average Jefferson when it's all said and done, but I want to have that one player who can actually go off for 30 points, and obviously Jefferson's that guy now.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple more, then we got to get out of here. We have Self Tanksley asking, one more, guys, Goff or Brees?
Ooh.
I'm gonna say Goff. I think Goff is the play here.
Jared Goff is sneaky good this year. He's one of the top 3 passer ratings in the league right now. Goff is consistent. He is what Brees was a couple of years ago. We don't sleep on Detroit's defense, who New Orleans is playing, right? Because they made Kyler Murray look silly last week. So I would go with Goff. Goff, the Rams are playing well.
Also, our buddy Noah did let us know it's just 1. So when you have Gage, Gallup, Jefferson, DJ Moore, I think Gallup would be a safe play. DJ Moore's just finding himself. He might have a big game, but Gallup will get those junkyard plays and will be the junkyard dog if you know what I'm talking about. So I think Gallup will be the guy to play there. Now Ricky has one: T.Y. Hilton or Brandon Ayuk. Ricky, I'm so sorry, Ricky. I apologize. Ricky, something's gone terribly wrong for your team, Ricky, and I'm in the same boat. I just dropped T.Y. Hilton. I don't know how I feel about now talking about starting him. Brandon Ayuk has not shown us nearly enough. T.Y. Hilton has not shown us nearly enough. I'd go T.Y. Hilton simply for the fact that right now, at least on paper, he's the number 1 on his team. San Francisco obviously is hurt everywhere. Brandon Ayuk definitely might have a big play game, but I think if you're looking for something consistent that you can rely on, T.Y. Hilton will give you the 8 points a game, 10 points a game, and maybe he gets a touchdown. So maybe you're looking at 14, 15 a day.
Okay, so again, we're going to go back to potential, and I would pick Ayuk at this point. T.Y. Hilton is the better player, but Ayuk has the better potential. Ayuk had 8 targets last week, 5 receptions. 5 receptions, 70 yards. He went in as the second receiver for San Francisco, and the belief was over the offseason that even though he was a rookie, he was their best receiver. George Kittle's coming back this weekend, or coming back today, rather.
Exactly.
So I think Ayuk would be the play.
You know what? He got me. Okay, Ricky. Ayuk's the play. I want to stay away from T.Y. Hilton as much as possible. I just dropped him. That's bad juju for me. So Ayuk is the play. Ayukin. Let's keep going though. Let's talk about some money in the next segment, daily fantasy and your spreads to win you some money. We've been pretty damn good at this. So if you want to win some money and you're a betting man, keep it locked to ESPN San Antonio, 94.5 FM, 1250 AM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com.
The Fantasy Gods is sponsored by RDK Advisors. Are you a captive life insurance agent? Maybe you're a PNC agent wanting to write some life insurance business. Give RDK Advisors a call. Let us show you how to increase your life and annuity production. Build your contract, own your book, and be independent, but don't do it alone. Call RDK Advisors at 210-508-0369 or visit rdkadvisors.com.
Texas Spine Care Center and Dr. Adam Brueggemann are committed to treating chronic back pain and helping patients understand and make informed decisions about orthopedic treatment. They focus on using the latest techniques, medicines, and practices to give their patients the best treatment options to manage and overcome pain. Texas Spine Care Center is committed to helping San Antonio find the best choices that will give you your life back. So call 210-941-1785 or go to TexasSpineCareCenter.com. 210-941-1785.
Jason Minix here from the Blitz. You know, in San Antonio, we have some of the hardest water in the country. If your water smells or has an odd taste, call Alamo Water Softeners at 210-274-6122. Alamo Water Softeners is a locally owned, family-run business that offers the highest quality water softeners at affordable prices. Free in-home or phone estimates available. Get clean, soft water by calling Alamo Water Softeners, 210-274-6122, or go to their website, alamowatersofteners.com.
If you've got an insurance question, you could talk to the butcher at your local grocery store. He'd probably talk about trimming the fat, but it'd be about your brisket, not your insurance policies. Or you could talk to your local Geico agent. They offer personalized assistance in finding the choicest cuts of coverage for all your insurance needs, which means more money for filet mignon. Or, if you're a vegetarian, tofu lait mignon. To find a Geico agent near you, visit geico.com/local.
Will we see new offensive wrinkles under new Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy?
The one thing that I do want to see, what about Dak running the ball more? We talked about this when they signed Andy Dalton. When you've got a solid backup quarterback, can you be a little bit riskier with your starting quarterback, especially one that, as of right now, doesn't have a long-term deal? Do you run him more?
For everything Dallas Cowboys, The Blitz 4 to 7, 1250 ESPN San Antonio and 94.5 FM.
Let's talk about money. Let's get you guys some money in the pockets to go buy your lovely woman, lovely man, lovely friends some drinks today because football is back. We are going to have a wonderful day of games, and that means you need to be betting. If you're a betting person like us, and you may be a degenerate gambler like us, you've come to the right show. So with that, let's talk about some good bets. Daily fantasies up first. Michael, anybody that's sticking out to you daily fantasy-wise that you think is a need for you to maximize your cap in daily fantasy?
Well, I really like the receivers for the Seattle Seahawks in daily fantasy. I think that they are complete studs. Obviously, Russell Wilson as well. I rode them into the promised land last week. They're a fantastic play in daily fantasy. Mike Davis is also a really good play this week. As we mentioned, he's great in PPR, but in daily fantasy, it's not. It's part of it. So I like Mike Davis, and I'm submitting my lineup right now. And there's a lot of good value that you have here. I'd stay away from some of the top ones. I'd stay away from the D. Hopkins of the world and the Kamaras of the world. They're fantastic players, man, but they're going to chew up all your cap. So I'd be very careful about that. I think Nick Chubb's going to have a really big game today, too.
Yeah, Kenyon Drake's also a name you should be looking at daily fantasy, only 6,000. That's all via DraftKings. Now, when it comes to bets, Michael, what's some bets you're taking and maybe a parlay that you might be looking at to make some good money?
Man, I'm still riding the Cowboys over. This is back-to-back weeks where they went over what the over-under was going to be by more than double digits. So the fact of the matter is, Cowboys, Browns, the over is 56, expect 65. I like Washington at home against Baltimore. 14.5 points is a lot. That's a lot. And as far as a parlay is concerned, I like the Detroit money line over the Saints. They're a 3-point favorite or 3-point underdog. I think they're going to win outright. So I would parlay Detroit money line, San Francisco -9 against Philly. And then also, I would also add in that 3-team parlay, Cincinnati -1.5 against Jacksonville. I think Burrow gets his first win.
Okay, I like that. I know for me, I'm a big fan of the Buffalo Bills. I have them at 170. At -170, I think they're definitely going to be looking to beat the Raiders. I like the Cardinals against the Carolina Panthers. Check this out, Mike. 175. I feel like that's a very close line, and I think the Cardinals are very much a better team.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
So I like the Cardinals at that line. And then also, I think if you're looking to do a parlay, I know one that I'm doing that's a little risky, a little crazy, but if you're a little wild like me and you want to put down maybe $10, $20, that's what I did. I am doing the Chicago Bears +3 against the Colts. I do think Chicago can do something with Nick Foles. I think the defense is good enough to stop Phillip Rivers. I think Jonathan Taylor will get his, but very much do not expect a huge Jonathan Taylor game. So I have the Chicago Bears +3, the Buffalo Bills money line at 170, and the Cardinals money line at 175. You can also throw in the Seahawks there or whatever the case, but I'd stick to maybe a 3-team parlay. But those are all sure to make you some money, hopefully. We've been pretty good at this, Mike.
We have been. One of the good things about this is that we get to go back in time and review what we did and what we've said. And I would say that when it comes to some of these who should we play or even some of these gambling picks, we're about 85% accurate on these.
Yeah, listen, you guys need to start paying us, it seems like. You know what I mean? Because we're making you guys some money, but hopefully you all have a nice cold drink ready to pour, some hot barbacoa or some barbecue somewhere ready to eat. Hopefully you have some friends to watch the game. Definitely go social distance, though. If you're going to the bars, you're going to go eat. Be safe. Enjoy football. We have a lot to talk about. Do understand that we are now doing the podcast, the Fantasy Gods podcast. Is going to be happening this week as well. We're going to be talking waiver wire additions after week 4, as well as injury reports. That's all going to be happening. We're looking to get on Apple Podcasts as well, so make sure you're checking us out on there. My name is Brandon Big Papi Medina. You can find me at Big Papi Brennan M on Twitter. That's Michael Jimenez. You can find him at 210 Fantasy God on Twitter. Go follow ESPN San Antonio on Facebook and Twitter. It's been a blessed day. It's Sunday. It's football day. It's time to have a good time. Go make yourself some money. Get those lineups changed. We are about 3.5 minutes from kickoff. Exciting times come for exciting measures. Michael Jimenez, Brandon Medina saying goodbye to you guys. And as always, Michael, we like to end this beautiful, fantastic, money-making show with one simple line. What is that, Michael?
May the fantasy gods be with you.